Number 1 is our classic good old calligraphy using a calligraphy pen. I added a little bit of a black shadow to it so it looks more 3D and just a bit more pizzazz. Number 2, we are recreating the calligraphy using just a normal black felt tip pen. I'm showing this so that it can be creative and the same effect, you just need to widen some edges and that's about it. Similar to number 1 and number 2, this is also calligraphy and I'm just showing you basically how I outline where I'm going to color it first and then just bring out the edges a little bit longer to make it seem like a banner almost. The next one, basically what you do is make the vertical line just a little bit thicker and fill it in with some lines to make it more 3D and stand out so it's more bold. Now this one is really similar to one we just did before, but it's curly and you don't fill it in. This one makes it look a bit more free-flowing and just a bit more fun than the other. Now this next one is what I call a haystack. I'm not sure why, but it just gives me that impression. Anyway, this is really simple. Instead of just doing one line for each stroke, you use 3. It gives it so much more of a fancy feeling and so much more artsy. Don't you agree? This one isn't more of a font than rather placement. This just gives it so much more room and looks like there's much more space. Now this one really brings back some primary school memories. This is the classic 3D block letters. I love doing this because it's just so simple and it's always a good classic to do when you want to do some lettering or headings. This one is what I like to call the bubble. Basically, you have your letters in bubble rising and have them more tightly packed together so they're all squished. I think this is really cute and just can be used for any occasion. The next is what I like to call color blocks. Basically, it's just a bubble writing and then you just fill the top half or bottom half, whatever you choose, with some color. This is just to introduce some more color and just elevate the look. This is one of my favorite ways to write a heading. Basically, you just write it but put a little dot in between the letters just to give it a bit more space and dimension. This one is just also super simple. Instead of writing it in complete line, just do it in dashed lines. This is what I like to call the bumblebee. It's kind of like a trail bees leave after they fly. This one is really similar to the color block we did earlier, but instead of having a straight line going across, you can do a little triangle or a little arrow just to differentiate it. I think this is actually quite different because you can also control the patterns and shapes you want to do inside the color blocks. The next one utilizes negative space. What I did first was use a black connector pen just to trace out the letters I want to write and then go in with a white gel pen to make it stand out and almost seem like it has a glow to it. This is what I like to call the ombre. So what you do is you first write out the framework of the letters and then use a colored pen to slowly fade out from the top to the bottom or bottom to the top, whatever you want. So it gives that extra, almost just artsy feel to it, but you can still read it quite clearly. Now this pattern is one I want to show you. You can just easily fill in your block and bubble writing. What I did was almost like the little waves that are inspired by Japanese art, and they're just meaning like arcs and semicircles. You just fill it in, go in different directions, and it really gives it quite a beautiful look. The next one is what I like to call the stroke method. Basically, where you start writing it, you put a dot, and where you end your stroke for that letter, you put a dot. Also, I purposely decided to do a capital L because I think it's more fun if you have irregular capital and non-capital letters in the font. Next one, I'm sure we have all seen on beautiful Tumblr, Pinterest, Instagram, blog pages. It is the classic highlight a capital letter and then using your felt tip liner, doing a cursive. Now the next two are a bit more simple. You literally just use a highlighter to use a line and draw either within the highlighter line or leave it at a negative space so it is slightly to one side. Now this is another one of my favorites. First you use your highlighter to write it in capital letters and then use block writing to also write it out, except for you tilt it slightly to the top or to one side. It just gives it that extra 3D effect. The next one is also super similar, but instead of using block letters, you just normally write it out as you would and tilt it to one side. Again, this style is super similar to the other two except for you write it within it, and you can choose whether you want to do block letters or not, and then it just makes it look so much more casual because it's not perfectly within the lines of the highlighter. I really love using this as a title and it's just so pretty. The next one is a 3D arrow. Basically, you just write out almost like a board and a sign, and you can write it first on the first arrow, and behind it is like almost a shadow, and you can block it with color. This I really like using as a header and a title together because it's all in one, it's super simple to read and it's easy as well to do. Think of this one more as a bracket, and what you're writing inside is just highlighted in bold with the extra highlighted line so you can make it stand out. There's another super casual one. You just write it out with some scribbles of the highlighter and write it within the scribble. This style is also super similar to the other one, except for it's more circular, and you also use your pen to do another random scribble outside it just to make it a framework. This is what I call the rainbow arc. Basically 2 little arcs and you write your title in the middle of it. Now this takes a little bit longer. First you write out in block writing and then slowly dot it so it seems like it is fading away and having an ombre effect. I think this is a really pretty look, but it does take a little bit longer to do. This is another style of 3D writing. You use your black marker to just trace over the underneath of one side of each letter. This is what I like to call the jelly. Basically, you just write it in bubble writing, except for next to each of the letters, you can have 2 little strokes to make it look like it's quivering and like jelly. Instead of using one stroke, you can make it look like you're doing etching and hashing it on. Now this one is just a simple calligraphy, but it focuses more on the little accessories you can add. So I do a fancy underline as well as 2 little wings just to accentuate it, and then use the red highlighter to just make everything a bit more colourful. This is a classic banner just to elevate your title. This is reminiscent of sticky tape and sticky notes. What I did was I had 2 sticky tapes on 2 sides of the post-it and write the title inside the post-it note. Now this is another classic. This is what I call the ribbon. You can do multiple strands, so if your title is super long, you can also spread it across the 2. This is another good method to write your title. This focuses on the border of the title, and I just did a simple rectangle with some cloud shapes behind it. I think it really just makes it a lot more cuter and stands out. This is what I call a bauble. Basically, you have circles hanging down from a piece of string almost, and you can write your title in letters individually inside of each bauble. This plays on the 3D effect of titles again, so I write the title on the first card, and behind it I use some hashes just to make it look like a shadow. This is super similar to the previous one, except for instead of using the dark underline at the back, you put it at the front and use a white gel pen to write down the title so it stands out more using negative space. The next 2 play on banners, so you just use different shapes of banners. For the first one I use triangles, and in each triangle you can write down a letter for the title, and next one almost looks like the shape of a tooth. I think both are really cute banner ideas for your title and these any occasion. Similarly, the next 2 play on the cloud shape, and in the first one I use the highlighter to first write the cloud and then write the title, using then my black felt tip to make a 3D hash behind it. The next one does the opposite. You first draw the cloud out with black liner and you use a highlighter to make a shadow. The next is what I call the price tag. Basically, you just draw a price tag and in the blank space write the title. This one is reminiscent of a page being ripped out of your notebook, and you just do some curvy lines on top to be like a spiral and write the title in the blank space. This is the bulletin. Basically, you just write it down on the square and have a little pin on top to make it look like it's been stuck on a bulletin board. Next is what I like to call the flagpole. Basically, you can have two tags coming out of the flagpole. This is where you can write the title in. This is especially good if the title is quite long. Last but not least, I decided to do a circular banner, almost like a wreath. So what I did was I just did some simple leaf silhouettes on the side and decided to write the title in the middle. This is meant to look quite messy and just quite free. And that's it. That is my take on 50 fonts and letterings you can use for your own bullet journal. I had so much fun making this and I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. I think this is just such a creative way to put into your bullet journal and also lets you to be a bit more aesthetically pleasing when you're setting up your own bullet journal. I really hope you guys can try some of these out yourself. If you do, please let me know because I would love to see your take on it and whether it actually helped you to make your bullet journal more you. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. It would mean so much if you can give me a like or even subscribe to my channel for future content. I'm really excited to show you guys later on my February bullet journal setup, which is coming very soon and I'm very excited about it. Again, thank you guys so much for watching and I really hope you took away something from this video and this made you realize there are so many different ways you can elevate a simple lettering and handwriting. So thank you guys so much for watching and I'll see you for the next video.